Just need to adjust this thingy here. What's going on, guys? So basically, why we are here today on this Easter Sunday, happy Easter Sunday, by the way. Lewis was unable to accompany me on this episode of the Probe Report here on Project Lone Wolf, but it's all good. I guess it's just me and you today, YouTube. So anyways, we're here to talk about Ukraine, and I'm going to give an introduction. Oh my God, toilet paper. Here to talk about the Ukraine, and basically an introduction to what that country is, what it's been, and leading up to why we got to where we're at with Russia and all them in the first place. So
there's gotta be a better way to do this shit.
Starting from the beginning, the origins of the Ukrainians, Russians, started off in the year 862. In addition to that, these Slavs or Slavic people were also pretty much a type of Viking, and they were led by a chief Viking called Oleg of Novgorod. The Viking chieftain of Novgorod united the Slavic people under one banner, and it was called the First Rus State. So around the 900s, after death, Christianity started expanding. And by that point, Christianity was formally introduced to the Rus State. Now, if you fast forward to the year 1000-ish, right, in the beginning of the 1000s, 1017 or 1020, and it was also around that time where they did introduce politics into the Rus State. That lasted about well over 100 years, and they were the number one superpower and influencer during that time and most of Eastern and Central Europe. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the year 1200s and early 1300s. The Russians, the Slavs, were expanding the Rus State, and they started bumping into other cultures throughout the land, especially the eastern southern part of the land, and they ran into the notorious Mongols. So it was during the early to mid 1300s that the Slavs were actually invaded successfully by the Mongolia, and they actually had to be like their slaves for many decades after that. It wasn't until the 1400s where they were actually fighting back and able to establish independence through breaking free via war from the Mongolians. It was there where they established new politics and a new kingdom, so to speak, under the banner of Moscow. So, a little glimpse of the importance of the name of Moscow should be to both Ukrainians and Russians today. It was in the mid 1500s where Ivan the Terrible, Ivan the Great, was officially the first Tsar, president, emperor, you have it, of the Rus State. Now, after Ivan took power, he immediately started campaigning for expansion. Being that they had got invaded the way they did by the Mongolians, it was only correct for them to now want to push their enemies further out of their borders, even if that meant taking some of theirs. Better us than them, right? Well, after that, in the 1600s, Russia grew, or the Rus State grew 3 times its size, just conquering territory after territory and absorbing the people, the native people, into their rule of law. Now, towards the early 1700s and mid 1700s, they were ruled by this guy called Peter the Great. And this Peter the Great guy continued the expansion of the Rus State from coast to coast. Now, it was by the mid-1800s that Russia actually controlled most of Central Europe all the way to the east coast of the continent. So, right on top of China before Japan. and as far north as they can go. So in World War I, Russia was part of the allies that fought against the Central Powers, which were the bad guys. And they helped the United States, they helped Italy, they helped Britain. They helped the good guys out in World War I and were successful. And one would think after World War I there would be peace, but actually that brought about more power grabbing. So it was around this time that Russia experienced its first revolution after all they've been through. A revolution in their country, which brought about the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was the end result of Russia's first civil dispute and unrest. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Now, although things were not perfect in the country, somebody would be the bigger dog in this fight, and that somebody would be Hitler, right? So World War II breaks out around the 1930-ishes, towards the end of that decade. And many other countries were involved in the fight against Nazism. But, on a later video, we will mention you. Today, it's about Ukraine and Russia. So now, since the Germans were attacking through via Poland and Finland, yes, which is now a member of NATO, ironically. Actually, the Finns were allied with the Nazis during World War II. Sorry, guys, but it is what it is. Now, they're with NATO, but we'll leave that for another talk. Now, it was only right that Russia, again, like in the past with the Mongols, started taking the territory where they were being attacked from. And in this case, it was Poland, and it was the Finns. Now, there was rumors and speculation, guys, that in reality, Stalin was trying to cut a deal with Hitler. And being that they were talking behind closed doors, Russia never suspected that Hitler was going to stab him in the back. Now, during Operation Barbarossa, the Nazis attacked and invaded Russia and pushed them far back, passing Sevastopol, Kiev, almost reaching Moscow. So, no, not initially were the Russians on the Allies' side. I guess you could say that if it weren't for the Germans attacking them first, which they did not expect, they would have never joined the Allies' side during World War II, which we're glad that they did. Hitler underestimated the Russians, guys, but keep clear of that. In World War II, Kiev and Ukraine are well within the Russian borders. So by this point, guys, Estonia, Latvia, Romania, Eastern Poland, and the Czech Republic, all these areas, guys, are now being, I wouldn't say occupied, but they were within Russian territory. They were part of the USSR. So it was after World War II, coming up 1945, the official end, the surrender of Germany in Berlin and Japan in Tokyo. Finally, I'm not going to say they got bored and they didn't have nothing else to do, but they went back to their old plan of expanding their borders and influencing other countries. And this brought about not only I don't know if due to stress or old age, but the demise of Stalin, and the new boss in town, Nikita Khrushchev, took over, which officially kickstarted the Cold War between the emerging superpowers, which was Russia and the United States. And it was an amazing time for the Russians, man. They were putting people in a space for the very first time. They came out with a successful way to do that. And, they were a growing superpower, expanding to, Central and South America, Vietnam, China. Now, in 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev, I think I said it right. I butcher these names. he became the leader of the USSR. And then in 1990, towards the fall of the Soviet Union, he was elected president. So, yeah, we're not the USSR no more. Now we're a republic or democracy, and the old guy is now the new president. Now, keep in mind that Ukraine is still part of Russia, guys, all up to this point. So recap, guys, 1990, 1991, the Soviet Union fell, they dissolved, and they finally became what is known today as the Russian Federation. Now, it was now around this time where the republics, right, because it was a USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, so it was a collection of republics, let alone states. It was a collection of republics that included Ukraine, and then by this time, Ukraine formally declares itself independent of the Russian Federation. There was other states, the Latvia, the Czechs, any occupation that was going on any other place after World War II is now declaring themselves independent countries. And officially, Russia also was recognizing these independent states as independent states. So they were like, okay, you guys want to be independent? Cool. It was in 1994 to 95 where Boris Yeltsin came into power. He was elected the official president of Russia, and after that, in 2000, it was Vladimir Putin that came to be president of Russia. And then apparently this guy, in Russia, you get a 6-year term, and he was elected twice. So he was the president of Russia from the year 2000 to 2012, and then this guy was reelected. And I don't really know what the politics are as far as their country goes, guys, but apparently the polls that are out there on the likability and popularity of Vladimir Putin are pretty high. Is his government controlling all that information? It's possible. But according to mainstream guys, over 80% of Russians actually like this guy. Now, if you guys remember, during the post-2010s, we had the invasion of Georgia because I guess Georgia was entertaining joining NATO, right? And they had an agreement after World War II, and the agreement was, hey, NATO, World War II's done. We're the only two cowboys left in the saloon at high noon. So, what's about you don't expand and we don't expand? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was a promise that NATO actually made to Russia. Hey, the whole purpose of NATO or El OTAN was to not allow Nazi Germany to rise again, right? That was the whole purpose of NATO, to avoid a situation where one country can get so much power like that by forming a collective of nations and countries that are not going to stand for that. Now, yes, the United Nations was formed, but the United Nations apparently is apart from NATO. NATO is a collection of countries which they have articles of understanding that they all signed and agreed to. And on, I think it's Article 5, right, where if any other country attacks one of their countries within their clique or gang, now they're obliged to defend them and attack back. So, was Russia being the nice guys and were they not expanding? I'm sure they were expanding too in other ways. You know what I'm saying? They really simmered down after the events of Afghanistan. It seemed like they really just, they were going to expand and influence in another way via economic ways, right? And they really simmered down. And NATO, on the other hand, has been expanding ever since, is what I have understood. And actually, if I may add to that, I believe that Ukraine, in particular, here did not go quietly. I think there was some type of coup or revolution where it was the CIA involved, helping them out. I'm not sure about this, guys. These are speculations, but from people that know. And at the time, Putin was a KGB officer, and he saw that revolt, that fall of the Soviet Union, which he was hardcore KGB. Coming back, guys, now to current events. It was around 2013 where the people of eastern Ukraine were, which mostly Russian ethnic people that spoke Russian. They were starting to be discriminated against. By the Ukrainians. You know what I'm saying? They started getting treated less, and it got up to the point where, revolts ensued within Ukraine. And then finally, this catches the Russian ear, and they're like, hey, man, maybe we should help these people out. They are our people that were left in Ukraine after the fall of the Soviet Union. So what ended up happening is that a full-on fight or civil war breaks out again, and resulting in the Ukrainian people attacking the Donbass and Donetsk regions, guys. Russia ends up, because of that, taking over Crimea, which is to the south of it, and they end up setting up a base there. And then now in 2022, which was last year, they finally, launched a full-scale military operation or invasion of Ukraine, which was basically, it was to retake all the regions where ethnic speaking Russians were at and protect them, because now Ukraine was attacking them, brutalizing them pretty much, which you really don't hear this on the news, but it happened and went down. I mean, even news agencies like CNN and others were reporting on it, and it seems just like now, because it doesn't fit certain people's narrative, they're sweeping it under the rug and they're ignoring it. That's pretty much all I have for you guys on this one. It was just an introduction, as best as I could, to what Ukraine is and what it was, and basically just an introduction to what we're gonna be continuing on the podcasts to come. I don't even think you would call this a podcast. It's all edited and shit. But this is not a very good time, guys. With the economy and all that stuff, and I don't know if you guys pay attention. I guess there's a new strain of COVID or bird flu going around, but this war part and the economy is pretty scary stuff, guys. And it's not to be instilling fear in anybody, but it's the reason I bring these topics up, or I'm trying to bring them up, is because it's of interest to me, and I really would like to, just warn people to pay attention. The more people get their stuff in order, the less people there is to worry about. And, at the end of the day, that should be a goal we should all strive for. We'll see. But anywho, that's all I'm going to have for you guys on this one. This has been the Probe Report here on Project Lone Wolf. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. By the way, there has been rumors going around about President Zelensky on whether he may or may not be gay. The hero of Ukraine, President Zelensky, is saying that he's too hard for the fucking radio, you know what I'm saying? He needs more ammo. He doesn't need a ride. He's a man's man, manly man. Check this out. Okay, if you're not convinced, take a look at these. All right, all right, all right. How about this one? Why? Why? See you on the next one, guys. Thank you for watching. This has been another episode of the Probe Report.